guess I'll take off my glasses to start. I will have to put them back on because I'm blind, unfortunately. Hi. So little known fact, I'm obsessed with watching reactions myself, and my hands down top reactions I watch are to Game of Thrones. It's one of my favorite series of all time. Definitely my favorite drama series of all time. You know, comedy, we gotta get into like The Office and Friends and stuff, but drama, definitely Game of Thrones. It's to the point where literally Nick will be like, what are you gonna do? And I'll be like, oh, I don't know. And he'll be like, enjoy your Game of Thrones reactions. Because I just watch them over and over. Like, he knows it's either that or it's gonna be like Sons of Anarchy reactions or something. I don't know. I have problems. But anyway, so I've been really thinking about it recently, and I'm just kind of sad that I won't be able to give you guys my Game of Thrones reactions because I've seen it. And it makes me sad. Like, I wish I had that on my channel. And I was thinking about it, and first of all, you guys can let me know if you're interested. I'll definitely rewatch it on my channel and react to it, like, as, you know, more of a commentary. It'll have spoilers, of course, because I've seen it. But you guys can let me know. But what I haven't reacted to is the histories and lore. I have not read it, so don't judge me. I haven't read the books, or the books that are out. And yeah, so whatever. But I'm a huge fan of the series, the HBO series, and also do know a little extra. Like, I've listened to different podcasts about things that happen in the books and things. So today I'm going to be reacting to the lore and see how that goes. But I still can't guarantee that I don't know some of this stuff, because I do know certain details that aren't in the movie. I mean, in the TV show. So just bear with me. But yeah, I'm actually excited about it. So we're just trying this out, see how it goes, see if you guys are even interested. You know, I feel like it's probably goes hand in hand. People want to react or watch reactions to the series Game of Thrones, like season 1 and then the lore, season 2 and then the lore. So I'm not giving you that today or in the future. Like I said, I might react to just like with commentary on it because I've already seen the show. But for now, I'm going to start with the lore of season 1. And we'll go from there. Okay? We'll see how it goes. I'm too blind to know where I put my glasses. It's a problem. Oh, there. Okay. That's what happens when you wear glasses and you take them off. Then you don't know where they are. Okay. So, I don't know if you guys are ready to get into this with me, but I'm pretty excited. I'm all about all the information of Game of Thrones. Are you ready? Let's do it. Oh, this is Game of Thrones Season 1, Histories and Lore. Okay, let's go.
In the dawn age of Westeros, before the coming of man and the raising of castles and cities, there were only the children of the forest. Little is known of them now.
Is this Brian's voice, like the actor?
Dark and beautiful, and no taller than children when grown to manhood. They lived in the depths of the forests and hidden villages, crannogs and caves. They hunted with rearward bows and armed themselves with blades of obsidian. Their wise men were called green seers and were possessed of powerful magic. They worshipped nameless, faceless gods of the forest, stream, and stone. According to legend, it was they who carved faces in the great white trunks of the majestic weirwoods. Their deep cut eyes were red with sap and ever watchful. 12,000 years ago, the first men came from the eastern continent, crossing a land bridge called the Arm of Dawn. Riding their great horses and wielding weapons of bronze, they cut down the children's forests and weirwoods. A terrible war raged between the children and the first men that lasted for centuries. At long last, the two races sought an end to the years of horror and bloodshed. They met on a small isle in the centre of a great land, and no weirwood tree would ever again fall to man's axe. Seal the pact before the gods.
I thought I would know a lot of this. I don't know, like, almost next to nothing that's been said already.
The Isle of Faces. But the pact could not withstand the coming of the Andal, a race of tall, fair-haired warriors. They attacked with fire and weapons of steel, slaughtering the children of the forest wherever they could find them. As for the children of the forest, those who survived the slaughter were said to have fled far north and have not been seen again. Most assume they're long dead, and some don't believe they ever existed. They live on only through song and legend, and in the faces of the weirwood trees.
My brand's dark.
When Aegon the Conqueror invaded Westeros, he had 7 kingdoms to contend with. The kingdom of the North Age was Bran the Builder. Bran raised the wall and built the stronghold of Winterfell, establishing House Stark and reigning as the first king in the North. Other legends
I do
take the
remember
Grey King
reading about
from the
Bran the
Iron
Builder and, like,
Grey King took a
theories
man to
of
defeat
Bran
Ned,
being Bran the
first sea
Builder whenever we were trying to
House
figure
Greyjoy
out
of Pike,
what was going on in the
Cardinal
series.
of the region, claimed to descend from him. House Casterly ruled the gold-rich Westerlands from their mighty seat of Casterly Rock. But their lands and power were swindled from them by the legendary trickster, Lan the Clever. The noble house of Lannister is said
These
to have
illustrations are
descended
really
from them.
cool.
The verdant and fertile lands
He looked
of the
clever.
Reach were first ruled. According to ballads of the age, a warrior named Durin fell in love with Elenai, whose father was god of the sea and mother was goddess of the wind. She gave her maidenhead to him, committing herself to a mortal life. Enraged, her parents called upon the winds and waters, destroying Darren's Bayside Keep and wiping
I
out his
need
wedding.
more of this.
Darren declared war on the gods and rebuilt his keep, which was also destroyed. 4 more castles he raised, each stronger than the last. All fell to the power of the gods. But Darren's 7th castle, Storm's End, withstood the gods' rage. Darren became known as Darren Godsgrief and reigned as the first Storm King.
East of Westeros lies the Smoking Sea, where no ship dares sail. There are those who swear it to be demon.
I like hate his
and
voice.
who's to say they're wrong?
I feel bad for the
But it
actor.
was there, thousands of years ago, that a cataclysmic event occurred, destroying one of the great civilizations in history. The precise details of their origins are lost to us. But it is said the Valyrians were once a modest community of shepherds, tending their flocks on a small peninsula of the great eastern continent. One fateful day, in a volcanic area known as the 14 Fires, they made a shattering discovery. Dragons. They were monstrous, scaled creatures with massive wings, sharp claws, and fiery breath. They were also said to have a deep-rooted connection to magic. In time, the Valyrians were able to tame the beasts. Harnessing their immense power, they established a city of wonder, unlike any before or since. They became skilled at sorcery and metallurgy, creating uncommon weapons of spell-forged steel. Wielding these weapons astride their dragons, the Valyrians conquered the surrounding lands and slowly expanded west.
Night gathers, and now my watch begins. It shall not end until my death. I shall take no wife, hold no lands, father no children. I shall wear no crowns and win no glory. I shall live and die on my post. I am the sword in the darkness. I am the watcher on the walls. I am the shield that guards the realms of men.
It's so
Pledge
good.
my life and honor to the stretching from the Frostfang Mountains in the west to the Bay of Seals in the east. It was a structure unlike any ever built. Indeed, some maintain it could only have been completed with the aid of giants, or using the powerful magic of the ancient children of the forest. Men were
So interesting.
and maintain it, and thus the Night's Watch was born. A sworn brotherhood, tasked with defending the realms of men against the dark forces that lay beyond. Upon taking his vows, which have fallen into disrepair over the years, the stewards serve as cooks, butchers, and hunters. They tend to the horses and messenger ravens, sew clothing, gather firewood, and bring supplies up from the south. The Night's Watch is a diverse
So they're like the women.
proud volunteers from all the
They have all the jobs that the women had back then.
petty thieves conscripted from dungeons. Class distinctions are left behind, as are past misdeeds. A man gets what he earns on the wall.
When he ends
And
it.
even the lowliest gutter snipe can rise up in rank if he proves himself worthy. For thousands of years, the brothers of the Night's Watch have stood their lonely vigil. As the seasons changed, as brutal wars raged in the south, as dynasties rose and fell, the Night's Watch endured. We are the swords in the darkness. We are the watchers on the wall. We
Man, the illustrations are so cool.
that guard the realms of men.
Love his voice. Oh, Mr. Lewin.
Joining the Night's Watch, or taking the Black, is a singular honor for any northerner. For it was in the north, some 8,000 years ago, that the first men drove back the White Walkers, erected the wall, and established the sworn brotherhood that would guard the realm and its people from the dangers beyond. Regrettably, the Night's Watch no longer commands the widespread respect and admiration it once did. While House Stark and other houses in the northern regions continue to recognize its vital importance to the safety and stability of the realm, this
The
view is not shared
Southerners-
by the powerful houses of the southern kingdoms
Yeah, they don't care.
or their subjects. Most regard the Watch as a misguided, obsolete order made up of useless outcasts.
Yeah, they live in the south.
The current
So-
Night's Watch is a shadow of its former glory. Their numbers have dwindled to less than 1,000. Of the 19 castles along the wall, only 3 are functional. The Shadow Tower, Castle Black, and East Watch by the Sea. And the Watch's mandate of adding to the wall has been abandoned entirely. There are barely enough resources to maintain it. Recruiting officers, known as Wandering Crows, scour the dungeons and
Wandering
slums of the realm
Crows,
in
that's
hope
cool.
of finding men to fill the ranks. While there is still the occasional highborn volunteer, the newest recruits are almost entirely made up of lowly criminals. Thieves, rapists, and murderers. sentenced
Makes
to the
sense,
wall
because
as
why would a
punishment for their
highborn
crimes.
choose to do that? Like, obviously some
The
do,
decline of this once
but
fabled order is troubling.
mostly it's gonna be people
As
who
the
are
danger
trying to
guards
get out
against
of,
is all
like,
too real,
being
while
beheaded
the White
for...
Walkers haven't been seen or heard from in ages, and may very well be the stuff of myth. Barbarian tribes that dwell beyond the wall, known as wildlings, have been a menace to the North and its people for generations. At certain points in history, the disparate wildling tribes have united behind a single leader, a king beyond the wall, and attempted large-scale attacks against the realm. But thanks to the resourceful and courageous men of the Night's Watch, these so-called kings were soundly defeated.
Today, a
His
typical
voice
man
is
at
so
the Night's
good.
Watch most likely started out a lowly beggar. Its watch will claim the Seven Kingdoms need protection from the wildling tribes of the far north. But there's little to fear from those primitives. They're a nuisance, but not sophisticated or powerful enough to be a significant threat to the realm. And any talk of White Walkers returning with their armies of the dead and their giant spiders and their snarks is just that. Talk.
Talk.
In the Seven Kingdoms of Westeros, the dominant
It's so
religion
cool how
is
the
faith
cast
of
is
the
reading
Seven.
this. I never had any
First
idea
brought to the shores
that
by the
that's
Andals some 6,000 years
who
ago.
was narrating
But there are
these.
some who still keep to the old way.
A new religion was born in the hills of Andalos. According to legend,
Well, I always love her voice so much. Like even when I watch the
and the
series,
invasion of
so good.
Westeros followed soon after. The Andals sailed across the sea on ships armed with weapons of steel. Some warriors carved a 7-pointed star into their skin as a symbol of their new faith.
The invaders destroyed most of the weirwoods in the southern lands, slaughtered the children of the forest wherever they could find them, and conquered every kingdom of the first men, save the north. In time, the faith of the Seven spread like wildfire throughout the land. The Seven is a single deity with 7 aspects, each symbolizing a different area of life, though most people refer to the Seven as separate gods.
The mother is prayed to for mercy and watches over fertility, childbirth, and peace. The father sits in judgment over souls. The warrior is prayed to for protection, valor, and skill in battle. The crone is the symbol of wisdom and foresight. The smith watches over creation and craftsmanship. The maiden symbolizes purity, love, and beauty.
This is so cool.
Finally, there is the stranger,
He looks just like the other one.
who represents death. The faith is highly
Man,
organized
that
and
is so cool.
Westerosi
You know, like you hear them
practice.
say, I prayed to the Seven, I prayed to the Mother, but to have like the actual depth behind it is really
The
cool.
seat of the faith is the Great Sept of Baelor, which is located in the capital city of King's Landing.
Still, in the north, where descendants of the first men dwell, worship of the old gods continues to this day, and the sacred faces of the weirwood trees keep close watch over the faithful.
The ascension of Aegon Targaryen was confirmed, and the fate of the Seven Kingdoms sealed on the Field of Fire. Kings Loren Lannister of the Rock and Mern Gardner of the Reach stood against Aegon's invasion. They had reigned as kings in the north since the days of the First Men and were determined to resist the Targaryen invaders, just as they had resisted the Andals thousands of years before. King Torrhen Stark led his army to the Red Fork just east of Riverrun, hoping to succeed where Lorne and Mern had failed. But when Torrhen saw the size of Aegon's now mighty host, along with his monstrous dragons, he knew he couldn't subject his followers to the horror of another Field of Fire. He bent the knee and swore fealty to Aegon, who allowed the Starks to maintain their lordship over the region as Lords Paramount and Wardens of the North. Without question, Torrhen Stark saved thousands of lives that day. He was ever after known as the king who knelt.
The days of the Andals were numbered. One by one, their so-called kings were bending the knee or facing the wrath of Aegon Targaryen. Aegon of Old Valyria. Aegon who was blood of the dragon. After defeating the Iron Men at Harrenhal and slaying the last of the Storm Kings, Aegon and his sisters, Rhaenys and Visenya, set their sights on other prizes. The gold mines of the Rock and the fertile lands of the Reach. King Loren Lannister of the Rock and King Mern Gardner of the Reach foolishly thought their combined armies could beat back the Targaryen host. They rode forth together. their proud banners flapping in the wind, and faced off against Aegon in a vast golden field of wheat. The two kings commanded a massive force of nearly 60,000, and it appeared the day was theirs, until Aegon unleashed all 3 of his dragons for the first and only time. Each beast was named after the Valyrian gods of Aegon's forefathers. Visenya rode Vhagar, whose fiery breath could melt armor. Rhaenys rode Meraxes, whose jaws were big enough to swallow a horse.
Meraxes is a cool name.
Greatest
Also,
of
didn't they
was
all
Valerion the
melt
Black
steel?
Thread, with fire dark as night and wings so huge whole towns were covered in shadow when he flew overhead. This magnificent creature was ridden by Aegon himself. 4,000 men were bathed in glorious dragon flame that day, on what came to be known as the Field of Fire. King Mern was among the dead, and House Gardener died with him. His stewards, the Tyrells, surrendered his ancestral stronghold of Highgarden to Aegon, and were appointed Lords Paramount of the Reach and Wardens of the South.
A maester forges his chain with study, and each link represents the mastery of a different kind of learning. For instance, a silver link signifies mastery of the medicinal arts. A golden link represents the study of money and accounting. An iron link indicates knowledge of warcraft. Ravenry is an especially important skill for a maester.
I need to go back and see what Maester Lewin's was.
Carrier ravens for the delivering of messages throughout the land. There are some maesters who have earned a link forged of Valyrian steel. This signifies knowledge of the higher mysteries, commonly known as magic. Only
Oh,
one
he
maester
said-
in 100 possesses such a link.
I think he
and
said
this field of
he
study
had that
is
link
frowned upon by many in the order.
in an episode. I don't know if it's accurate to the
May
book.
have existed for a time long ago, but most consider the higher mysteries to be long gone from this world. Service as a maester is a noble calling, one of vital importance to a prosperous realm. It is little wonder there are some who refer to the order as the Knights of the Mind.
Dang, Maester Lewin again.
As word of King Aerys' erratic and troubling behavior spread throughout the Seven Kingdoms, Lord Rickard Stark continued to serve his king faithfully as Warden of the North. The proud father of 4 children, his daughter Lyanna, was engaged to Robert Baratheon, the young lord of Storm's End. Centuries of peace between the North and the Iron Throne ended the day Rhaegar Targaryen, Prince of Dragonstone, abducted Lyanna. In
I didn't
the
realize they were
Brandon
engaged. I don't know
Stark
why I didn't
rode
realize
to
that.
King's Landing, demanding the release of his sister and the death of Rhaegar. Aerys arrested him for treason and called his father to come to the capital to ransom him. When Lord Rickard complied, Aerys, now utterly mad, arrested him for treason as well. Lord Rickard demanded a trial by combat. Aerys declared Fire the champion of House Targaryen and had Lord Rickard suspended from the rafters of the throne room while pyromancers lit a blaze beneath him.
Wow.
As he burned, Brandon was brought into the throne room. A leather cord attached to a strangulation device was wrapped around his neck. Aerys told Brandon his father was a dead man, but there was a chance to save him. A longsword was placed on the floor just out of Brandon's reach, and the more he struggled to reach it, the more
he would
cord
choke.
tightened around his throat.
Wow.
Brandon Stark strangled himself trying to free his father, who was roasted alive in his own armor. The entire court stood and watched this atrocity take place. Sir Jaime Lannister and the Kingsguard among them. The Mad King was reported to have laughed hysterically as these 2 noble men were tortured and brutally killed before him. Seeking to rid the world of all his supposed enemies, Aerys called for the head of Rickard's younger son, Eddard Stark, and Lyanna's betrothed, Robert Baratheon. He sent word to Lord John Arryn, who'd fostered both young men at the Eyrie, to apprehend them. Instead, Lord Arryn joined Houses Stark and Baratheon in rebellion.
Oh, okay.
Robert vowed to kill Rhaegar Targaryen and get his beloved Lyanna back.
We all know how that goes. Ooh, Robert Baratheon! I love his
Aerys
voice.
Targaryen was the last of his name to sit on the Iron Throne. Known far and wide as the Mad King, his was a reign of instability and terror. The Seven Kingdoms are well rid of him and his kind. Oh, he may have appeared to be a capable ruler at first, but that was due in no small part to his counselors, led by the hand of the king, Tywin Lannister. There may have been years of peace and prosperity during Aerys's reign, but it was Tywin who was really running the country as Aerys spiraled further and further into insanity. The dragon spawn were famous for losing their minds. It was the price they paid for centuries of keeping the bloodlines pure. And Aerys more than happily continued the noble sister-fucking tradition of his forefathers.
Oh my god.
As the years passed, Aerys's
As did your
behavior
wife.
became increasingly erratic. He cut himself so often on his Iron Throne, many referred to him as King Scab, though never to his face.
Gross.
It was rumored he had developed an obsession with wildfire, and was known to inflict horrific punishments on those he considered enemies, including burning them alive. As his paranoia and bloodlust grew, he had a bitter falling out with Lord Tywin, who had served the crown faithfully for 20 years. At least Tywin was able to leave the job with his life and fortunes intact. Subsequent hands of King Aerys weren't so fortunate. Then the Targaryens went too far. The Crown Prince Rhaegar abducted Lyanna Stark, daughter of Rickard Stark, the Lord of Winterfell. She was my betrothed. She was my beloved. Beautiful and spirited woman, and I loved her more than life itself.
Can't remember what she looked like.
Rhaegar went south with Lyanna, hiding her away in Dorne. What harm he inflicted on the poor girl, the gods only know. Brandon Stark, Lyanna's eldest brother, was outraged. He rode to King's Landing to confront the king and demand his sister's safe return. Instead, Aerys had him executed, his father, Rickard Stark, as well. There wasn't much left to discuss after that. Aerys feared their loved ones would seek revenge for what he did. He was right to be afraid. Aerys wasted no time in calling for the heads of Brandon's younger brother, my friend Eddard Stark. And my head too, of course. I'm sorry he didn't come looking for it himself. Alongside Jon Arryn of the Vale, the man who fostered Ned and I as children, Baratheons, Starks, and Tullys all called their banners. Once our rebellion began, the Mad King's days were numbered.
Very cool.
My power and influence unnerved him. The captain of my personal guard, Sir Elin Payne, was once overheard making offhand comments regarding who was the true ruler of Westeros. When the king was given this information, he had Elin Payne's tongue ripped out with hot pincers. It was my desire to unite the houses of Lannister
Which
and
we
Targaryen
hear
through
about
marriage.
in the series.
My daughter Cersei would marry Aerys' eldest son, Prince Rhaegar. Such a union made perfect sense for all parties. However, Aerys' senses had begun to leave him quite some time earlier. Instead of uniting the royal family with its most loyal and powerful ally, Aerys chose instead to insult my family, indicating that such a match was beneath Rhaegar. Instead, he chose Elia Martell of Dorne to be Rhaegar's wife. As if to rub salt in my wounds, Aerys appointed Jaime, my son, to the King's Guard. The King's Guard may be an honor for lesser families than ours, but it is a lifetime appointment that forces him to renounce all family holdings. This
I always thought
in naming
that Jaime wanted that, like volunteered because he didn't want to have to take a wife because he was in love with Cersei.
I had grown tired of the king's constant provocation. Thus, I resigned my post as Aerys' hand and returned to Casterly Rock with my considerable forces. When Robert Baratheon rebelled against the throne, Aerys grew fearful that I would join with Robert's forces and rise against him. He thought himself clever and kept Jaime very close, as if warning me. He sunk deeper and deeper into delusion, paranoia, and violence. I've heard it said he became obsessed with wildfire, a substance which, once lit, cannot be extinguished. Convinced he had enemies all around him, he wouldn't allow blades in his presence, save for those of his king's guard.
And his
Alas,
chair.
that proved to be his undoing.
Descended from the nobility of ancient Valyria, a once mighty empire in the east. When the cataclysmic doom laid waste to Valyria and its people, the Targaryens survived, having settled on the island fortress of Dragonstone years before. They remained there for a century, until the rise of Aegon the Conqueror. Instead of attempting to reclaim the eastern lands of his ancestors, Aegon sailed west for the Seven Kingdoms, his sisters Visenya and Rhaenys at his side. To keep the bloodlines pure, Aegon continued the custom of his Valyrian ancestors and took both of his sisters to wife. Together, they came ashore on the eastern coast of Westeros, there blazoned a dragon with 3 heads, representing Aegon and his sister wives. Their words, fire and blood. While their host was small in comparison to the armies of Westeros that awaited them, Aegon and his sisters had a secret weapon, the last of the dragons. He conquered every kingdom save Dorne, which eventually bowed to Targaryen rule a century later. He had the swords of his enemies melted down by the fiery breath of his dragon, Balerion the Black Dread, and forged into the Iron Throne. The capital city of King's Landing was built on the eastern coast, where Aegon and his sisters first came ashore, and Aegon ordered the construction of a royal castle on its highest hill, the Red Keep. For 300 years, the Targaryen dynasty stayed strong in the face of rebellion, civil war, and plague. But the line of Dragon Kings was broken when my father, Aerys Targaryen, the second of his name, was overthrown in rebellion.
It's so cool, like when they rebel and they overthrow and they take over, you know, like move into the castle. They have all the like remnants of the previous house still there. It's really cool.
The only surviving members of the story,
like the dragon skull and stuff.
Myself, Prince Viserys, rightful king of the Andals and ruler of the Seven Kingdoms, and my sister Daenerys. We were spirited away to the free cities of the East by loyalists. Here we have lived in exile ever since, dreaming of a day when we will cross the narrow sea and take back my father's throne.
Rebellion. The crimes of
His
House
voice is so
Targaryen
good.
are too heinous to go
Rebellion.
The noble houses of Baratheon, Stark, and Arryn united to oppose and overthrow the line of the cursed Dragon Kings. While Ned Stark and Arryn secured an alliance with the Tullys of Riverrun, I called the banners of Storm's End and rode out in force against the Mad King and his minions. Gods, those were some battles. Our first victory occurred at Summerhall, where I faced off against an army of dragon loyalists and won 3 battles in a single day. 3 in one day. Hells, that was a glorious day.
Oh my god, I love it so much.
But the Tyrrells beat us back.
Even in the series, like, his storytelling
My
is
army was
flawless.
pursued north by Eris's army, and
Gods, I was strong then.
In the Riverlands. When the Targaryen army entered the town, gods, what a day that was!
It's so good.
The Battle of the Bells. We overwhelmed the Mad King's forces and sent them scampering back to King's Landing. 1,000 men, but that didn't matter. They were fresh, but we were battle-hardened and had justice on our side. As the battle raged around us, I faced off with Rhaegar, the stag and the dragon right there in the ford of the river. I fought with the fury of 10 men, raining blow after blow upon that vile prince before burying my warhammer in his chest. I hit him so hard the rubies on his armor broke free, flinging them into the stream. They call it the Ruby Ford now. With that scum Rhaegar dead and the royal army shattered, our next move was to make for King's Landing. But I'd sustained a few wounds in the battle and was unable to ride. I sent Ned Stark to the capital to face the Mad King and make him pay for his crimes.
Okay, so my camera messed up and I paused it and made me a quick meal because I'm starving. I had mentioned I just got back from work and I'm hungry, so alright, let's get back into it. I'll be eating.
The Targaryens, blood of the dragon, and the last of old Valyria, were loved by their subjects and admired far and wide as the greatest dynasty in the history of the Western world. But the peace and prosperity of nearly 3 centuries of Targaryen rule was shattered by the usurper, Robert Baratheon, and his band of traitors. House Baratheon owed its very existence to the Targaryens. Was it not Aegon the Dragon himself who elevated the bastard Orys Baratheon in the War of Conquest? And what of the Starks, the Lannisters, the Aarons of the Vale? All had been spared and allowed to keep their lands when Aegon could easily have wiped them out. Centuries later, the usurper and his lackeys repaid Aegon's benevolence with treachery. There are some who dare to claim Robert and his allies had reason to rebel. They say the Crown Prince stole the usurper's lady love. They say my father, King Aerys, murdered Rickard Stark and his son without just cause. Whether these charges are true or not, it doesn't matter. The dragon answers to no one. Aerys' good name has been besmirched in the years since the rebellion. He's been called a dangerous madman, a monster, a tyrant that brought his tragic end upon himself. Lies! My father was a victim of weaklings in his council. Lackwits who failed him in his hour of need and let the rebellion spin out of control. But it was not enough. The royal army was crushed at the Battle of the Trident. It was there the valiant Rhaegar met Robert in single combat, but the gods betrayed him, and he perished by the usurper's hand. As the Field of Fire had marked the end of the Andal centuries before, the Battle of the Trident seemed to herald the end of the Dragon Kings. When word reached the capital of my brother Rhaegar's death, my father Aerys moved to protect me, as I was the surviving heir to the throne. He sent me to the island fortress of Dragonstone, along with my mother, Queen Rhaela, who was great with child. But as my father, my king, Aerys Targaryen, prepared to defend his throne to the bitter end, little did he know of the horrors and betrayals that awaited him and our family.
Were Dany and his parents siblings? Did I miss that? I always wondered that.
These are the words of the Black Stag of Baratheon. A battle cry echoed throughout the land in rebellion when I, Robert Baratheon, the first of his name, seized the Iron Throne from the Mad King Aerys Targaryen. ending a dynasty nearly 300 years old. House Baratheon was born in the Wars of Conquest, when Aegon the Dragon invaded Westeros. Aegon sent his commander, Orys Baratheon, to take Storm's End. Argilac the Arrogant, the last of the Storm Kings, foolishly left the safety of his stronghold and met the Baratheon warlord in open battle. Argilac was soundly defeated, and Orys took his lands, his holdings, and his daughter. Orys was said to be a half-brother to Aegon Targaryen. If this were true, a little blood of the dragon mingled with that of the stag in those days. The seat of House Baratheon is Storm's End, a legendary keep raised in the Age of Heroes. It overlooks Shipbreaker's Bay, where legend has it that Durin, the first Storm King, raised the keep with the aid of Bran the Builder of House Stark, forging a centuries-long connection with the Stormlands and the North. After Aegon's conquest of the Seven Kingdoms, the Baratheons remained loyal enough to the crown, while Targaryen kings came and went. But loyalty has its limits. When Rhaegar Targaryen, Aerys's vile son and heir, abducted Lyanna Stark, my betrothed, my beloved, it was time to act.
Couldn't remember what she looked
We
like.
raised our banners, Baratheon, Stark,
Just saying.
Jon Arryn, and the Tullys, united in rebellion against Rhaegar and his father, the Mad King. We were victorious and took the Iron Throne. That bit of dragon blood in my veins came in well, as it made me a distant relation to the Targaryen.
I always love the way he says
dynasty
blood.
of my long-lost ancestor,
The
Orys.
blood.
The truth of it is, I took it. I sit on the Iron Throne. I rule the Seven Kingdoms from the Red Keep.
House Lannister had remained neutral up to this point, ignoring requests for help from both the Crown and the rebels.
Smart.
Now that
Smart
Robert's
of them
eventual
to
victory was assured,
do that in the
it
final
seemed
hour.
Lord Tywin had finally chosen a side. Lord Eddard was horrified by what he saw when he entered the city. Homes looted and burned, women raped, scores of innocent citizens killed. Disgusted, he led his force up Visenya's hill to the Red Keep. Upon entering the throne room, he found King Aerys lying in a pool of blood, dead by the hand of his own sworn King's Guard, Jaime Lannister, who sat brazenly upon the throne. Demanding to know the whereabouts of Queen Rhaela, Lord Eddard was informed the Queen and her son Viserys had been spirited away to Dragonstone before the Lannisters arrived. But other members of the royal family were not as fortunate.
By who?
Rhaenyra Martell of Dorne, who was the wife of Prince Rhaegar, had been raped and murdered by Ser Krigor Clegane on Lord Tywin's orders.
I think they just said supporters
Ser Krigor and his
before.
man had also butchered Rhaegar's young children. When Robert was well enough to reach the capital, Lord Eddard demanded the Lannisters answer for their heinous crimes. Robert refused, and sent him south to relieve the Baratheon stronghold of Storm's End, which was still under siege by forces loyal to the crown.
Why would he refuse? Because he was supposed to marry Cersei?
Only to them. But Lord Eddard is said to have left King's Landing in anger. Later, when Robert was crowned, he appointed Jon Arryn as Hand of the King. Lord Arryn's first order of business was to broker a truce with the Martells of Dorne, who were outraged by the brutal murder of Princess Elia and her children. Following the death of Lyanna Stark, who had been betrothed to Robert, Houses Baratheon and Lannister were joined in marriage when the new king took Tywin Lannister's eldest daughter Cersei as his queen. As for Eddard Stark, he returned to his stronghold of Winterfell, forever haunted by his sister's death and the shameful way that Robert had secured his throne.
So he never liked the way
For
Robert
our
got the
rebellion
throne. I didn't
to
realize that.
succeed, King's Landing had to be taken forcefully. No one was foolish enough to believe that Aerys was going to hand his crown over peacefully. The Mad King's reign needed to end. What Tywin Lannister's forces did was unfortunate, but it was necessary to secure the Iron Throne and bring peace and justice to the Seven Kingdoms. My glorious victory at the Trident left me wounded, but I sent my personal maester to attend to Sir Barristan Selmy instead. His wounds were more severe. Even though Sir Barristan was a member of Aerys's Kingsguard and fought on the opposing side, that man's bravery and loyalty was something to behold. But this meant my wounds would take longer to heal, and I couldn't ride to King's Landing myself. I sent the one man I trusted over anyone else in this world, Ned Stark, in my place. Had I been able to ride, perhaps I could have reached King's Landing sooner and prevented some of the violence that occurred when the Lannisters entered the city. Still, what Lord Tywin did...
I wonder if Robert would have really cared.
Even what happened to Princess Elia and her children. Babies or no, theirs was the same cursed blood that flowed within the Mad King's veins.
Yeah, I know.
They were dragon spawn and couldn't be allowed to survive. What would they grow to be? Loyal subjects? Ned with his damn northern honor. He and I had our first major fight over the deaths of the Targaryen children. Ned called it murder. Murder? It was war. It was war.
Whoa.
Lord Stark demanded that the Lannisters be held.
Man, I wish we could have heard Ned narrate. Maybe he does other ones.
Lunatics born of incest. I wouldn't and still won't blame Tywin. Instead, I sent Ned Stark south to finish off the remaining Targaryen loyalists. It was only Lyanna Stark's death that reconciled us. Ned had lost his sister. I had lost my betrothed and beloved. We shared that sad bond together, Ned and I. Through it, our friendship was made strong again. As for the Mad King's surviving heirs, those that were able to scurry away in the face of my fury now live somewhere across the narrow sea. They had best stay there. If they ever set foot in Westeros again, they will face the King's justice.
Rhaegar Targaryen lay dead on the banks of the Trident, his royal army shattered and in retreat. But chaos benefits no one. It was time for House Lannister to do what it could
Chaos
to ensure
is a
return
ladder.
of peace and prosperity to the land. I, Tywin Lannister, brought 10,000 Lannister troops to the gates of King's Landing in order to bring the bloodshed to a quick and decisive conclusion. King Aerys had been sending ravens for months, begging for my support to end the uprising. In a way, his pleas had been answered. As I had suspected, Aerys opened the city gates and welcomed my men. Our plan was clear: crush Aerys' remaining bannermen and remove the remnants of the royal family as quickly and efficiently as possible. Any alternative meant years of further war and a fragmented Seven Kingdoms. Our means were bloody, but the results speak for themselves. As for Aerys, it is true he met his fate at the hands of my son. Aerys had kept Jaime close during the rebellion, thinking himself clever in keeping my son as a hostage, should I decide to pledge support to the rebel cause. This proved to be his greatest mistake. For when the time came, Jaime did his duty as a Lannister and drove his sword
To murder.
at the Mad King's back. It was a new day. The dragon was vanquished, and the Seven Kingdoms would thereafter belong to the stag and the lion.
Exactly.
The Battle of the Trident.
It's cool we get so many
was an
perspectives.
important victory for the usurper. But it was
I
the
guess these are all
treachery
from the
and
book.
barbarism of Tywin Lannister
Somebody
that
let me know.
sealed the fate of the Targaryens.
Like, obviously the information's from the
My
book, but
father,
I'm just
King
saying, like,
Aerys, had ever been a friend
are they
of the
reading,
Lannisters.
like, from the book, like the characters in the book?
Making him
because I know they're narrated by certain characters, like it kind of fluctuates, from what I understand.
He made it possible for Tywin to restore House Lannister to glory. Lannisters entered the Red Keep, and Tywin ordered the deaths of the rest of the royal family. It is said Princess Rhaenys was found cowering under her father's bed and put to the sword. She was only a child. As for Rhaegar's widow, Elia,
how old was she?
She was forced to watch as Lannister thugs dashed her baby son's head against a wall before being raped and murdered herself.
The Mountain, right?
As I was the heir to my father's throne, I had been spirited away to Dragonstone with my mother, Queen Rhaela, who was with child. As a raging summer storm battered the island fortress and destroyed the Targaryen fleet as it lay at anchor, my sister Daenerys was born. My mother, the Queen, died giving birth. Now, some 17 years later, the rightful
Did I know
Queen
that?
still lives in exile.
It is the stronghold of House Arryn, one of the oldest noble families in Westeros. Their sigil, a soaring falcon over a crescent moon. Their words, as high as honor. The Arryns are direct descendants of the Andal invaders, who sailed across the narrow sea and came ashore at the Fingers. According to legend, Sir Artus Arryn, known as the Winged Knight, soared through the sky atop a giant falcon, landing on the peak of the highest mountain where he defeated the Griffin King in battle. It was the Andal's first great victory over the First Men, and Sir Artus was duly rewarded. He was declared King of the Mountain and the Vale, and the region was renamed the Vale of Arryn. Thousands of years later, Aegon the Conqueror arrived in Westeros. House Arryn bent the knee to Aegon and his dragons, and were allowed to maintain the control of the region, as Lords Paramount of the Vale and Wardens of the East. Over the centuries, House Arryn remained loyal to the Targaryen dynasty, until Lord Jon Arryn joined with Houses Baratheon and Stark in rebellion against Mad King Aerys.
Okay.
Upon winning the Iron Throne, Robert named Lord Jon Hand of the King, a position he held until his mysterious death.
Okay.
We Lannisters claim our descent from the Andal invaders, and through the female bloodline, Lann the Clever. According to the legend, Lann, using only his wits, won Casterly Rock from the noble House of Casterly during the Age of Heroes. The Lannisters reigned as kings of the Rock for thousands of years, and worked to make it the envy of the rest of the Seven Kingdoms. Our time as kings ended, however.
This is where Tyrion gets it,
Targaryen,
his cleverness.
otherwise known as Aegon the Conqueror, arrived in Westeros with his army. The last king of the Rock, King Lorin Lannister, joined forces with King Mern Gardener, the king of the Reach. Together, with 60,000 men, they met the Targaryen host in open battle. History tells us that Aegon unleashed all 3 of his dragons, slaughtering 4,000 men at what came to be known as the Field of Fire. King Mern himself was burned alive that day, and House Gardener turned to ash with him. Seeing both the threat and opportunity the Targaryens represented, Lorin wisely surrendered and aided Aegon in his further conquest of Westeros. The Lannisters were thus appointed Lords Paramount of the Westerlands and Wardens of the West, titles we hold to this day. Let us be clear, though. It is neither luck nor royal favor that makes our house prosperous. There have been times in our history where some have thought us weak, lazy, or opulent. My father, Titus Lannister, nearly bankrupted our house with his poor investments, and allowed himself to be mocked openly at court. When our vassal, the Rains of Castamere, dared to rise up against the Lannisters, they learned how dangerous it can be to taunt a lion. I, Tywin Lannister, led the assault on Castamere to put down this rebellion. I made an example of them, to anyone who doubts our might. They even made a quaint song about the fates of the Rains of Castamere. Sadly, there are no Rains left to hear it. Today, the Golden Lion of Lannister is rightly admired and feared throughout the Seven Kingdoms. Our words are, hear me roar. But
I didn't realize that.
That should be remembered when crossing a Lion of Casterly Rock.
Lannister always pays his debts.
His debts.
Gotcha.
The Starks of Winterfell trace their descent to the first men in the Age of Heroes. The family's founder was Brandon the Builder, who, in the aftermath of the Long Night, helped establish the Night's Watch. Legend has it he enlisted the aid of giants and the powerful magic of the Children of the Forest to raise the mighty wall, which has protected the realm for generations. He went on to build the ancestral seat of Winterfell and reigned as the first king in the north.
The Starks reigned as kings for thousands of years, even withstanding the invasion of the Andals. As the southern kingdoms fell and the Children of the Forest were driven away, the north stood strong, maintaining its religious customs and its way of life. Eventually, the reign of the Kings of Winter came to an end with the coming of Aegon the Conqueror. After Aegon and his dragons destroyed the combined armies of the Reach and the Rock at the Field of Fire, King Torrhen Stark bent the knee and swore fealty to the Targaryen dynasty in order to spare the destruction of Winterfell.
I think they say that, like it was dragons we bent our knees to. Something
As
like
a
that.
reward for his submission, Aegon named Torrhen Lord of Winter.
And their family words, winter is coming,
Serve as a reminder of their beginnings in the wake of the Long Night and a grim portent of things to come.
Okay. That was really good. Yeah, I was worried that I might have known most of it already, which I didn't know a lot of it, but even the parts I knew, it's just cool to hear told like that. And there was quite a bit that I didn't know, like a lot of really interesting detail. It makes me even more excited to watch the rest of them. And also, I don't know why I hadn't yet. I'm such a huge fan. I don't know why I hadn't watched them yet, but I'm glad I didn't, because now I can react to them. Yeah, it was really good. So, like I said, you guys can comment below. Let me know if it is something you're interested in having me. I guess I'm gonna take these off. Having me react to or do commentary on the series Game of Thrones. I've already seen it, so I'm not expecting anyone would really care to have me do that, but you can let me know. I'm always willing. I love that show. Oh, I will mention it in other videos also, like the next few that I make, but I am sorry for my long hiatus. I'm going to do a lot to ensure that it doesn't happen again. I was making videos really consistently, and just I've been going through stuff, and you know, life happened, and I just wasn't able to make videos for a while. But I am back. There's a lot to come. I'll talk about more in detail what is coming up in my next video. But yeah, I'm excited about it. And also I will be completing this, like I'll react to, you know, all of the histories and lores. I'm assuming there's 8 because they're like, you know, season 1, season 2, so I don't know. But anyway, until next time, I'll hang out with you guys later. I appreciate you who stuck around. Sure, I lost subscribers, but that's fine. Hopefully I get more, and I appreciate you guys who stayed with me. All right. Till next time, guys. Bye.